Bella Beaute Bar is coming out with a brand new palette. This is called Cloud 9, and I'm really excited for this one because it is a smaller palette. I've said for a little while now that I would also love to see some smaller palettes from the brand, and it's been a while since they did a 12 pan, I think, multiple years. It has 7 shimmers and 5 mattes. I'm going to be doing eye swatches of all the shimmers, showing you some detailed swatches, and I'll also be doing a look. The palette will be launching on July 22nd, and you can use a discount affiliate code. I'm going to go ahead and pop mine up on the screen now. It retails for $69. I believe that is because it is chrome heavy. Let's go ahead and get into it. As I'm doing my overhead swatches, you can see that a bunch of the pans are split pan chromes. I'm finding the texture of these to be really nicely smooth and still very sparkly. But of course, with the split pans, that means that it's really important to try these on and to swatch them because it's hard to know what they will look like without seeing them a little bit more up close. In the second set of shimmer swatches, you can see that you have this really rich blue-purple metallic. In my opinion, that's the most textured shimmer in this palette. It's still not that textured, but the sparkle particles in it are a little bit more on the larger side. Here's what the whole palette looks like swatched. As someone who loves blue eyeshadow, you know that I was already drawn to this color story, and my eyes are definitely drawn to that pop of kind of neon coral. The first shimmer we have is called Dreamy Happiness. As I mentioned before, all of these split pan shimmers feel pretty smooth to the touch to me. This shimmer looks yellow, orange, and pink in the pan, and when I applied it to the lid, you see that it looks like an ethereal pink, maybe just with a hint of orange, and it has primarily an orange shift. When I do my eye swatches, you see those best when I hold up the mirror. Next shade we have is called Cumulus. This is definitely one of my favorite shimmers in the palette. I love a good glowy blue. When applied to the lid in direct lighting, it looks kind of like a light ethereal blue-purple, and it has primarily a pink shift. I do think that a lot of these shades also work really nicely as iridescents if you use them with a light hand. Okay, the next shade we have is called Prism Cloud. This one is a split pan that has an iridescent, a purple, and a little bit of an orange leaning coral. It looks like an ethereal light purple in direct lighting. It does have some multicolored sparkles. Actually, all of the split pans really do have multicolored sparkles, and the primary shift is yellow and green. The next shade we have is Emotional High. This one is probably tied for being my favorite shimmer in the palette. Again, it's another glowy blue. Love that type of shade. In the pan, it basically looks like different tones of blue, and applied to the lid, it's basically a light blue with a hint of purple, and the primary shift of the shade is to purple. I would say that in general, the chrome shifts of these shadows are not super strong, and I honestly don't mind that. Most of them have light ethereal glowy vibes. Okay, now we have what I would consider to be the deepest and moodiest shimmer in the palette. This is called Head in the Clouds. It's basically a rich kind of blue-purple metallic. As you can see, the shade is a little bit more textured than the other shades that I've tried. Not crazy, but the sparkle particles are a little bit larger, and you can see that with how it looks on the lid as well. This is a standout shade though, and honestly would be such a pretty one and done as well. Definitely a shade that has to be the star of the show when you use it. Okay, now we have what I would consider to be the chromiest chrome in the palette. This is the shade called Afterglow, and I had no idea how it was going to swatch. It's basically like a silvery shade that has multicolored blue and green, maybe also a little bit of yellow as well, and it has primarily an ethereal green shift. Okay, and last but not least, we have the shade Silver Lining, and in the pan, it basically just looks like a pale kind of sparkly, silvery, pearly type of shade. This one is super beautifully smooth and also very sparkly. I don't see much of a chrome shift with this one, but with the mirror, I thought maybe just a hint of a pale blue shift. but basically it looks like a pearly silver. Let's go ahead and dive into a look using this palette. Really excited because it's been quite a while since we've had a smaller palette. Of course, I have to incorporate the coral. I feel like this coral goes so well with these blues. I'm going to start off with this lightest blue shade here, and that shade is called Floating Feelings. I think what I want to do is use that coral kind of on the inner corner. I'm going to come back and add that later. I'm just going to pop this blue kind of all over the lid. I've been saying for a while that I really have wanted a few smaller palettes from Bella Beaute Bar, and I really don't recall when they've done a 12-pan palette. I feel like if they have, it's been quite a while. They had Morally Gray, that was a 9-pan in Valentine's 2024. And now I'm just going to go ahead and take that same shade on a flatter brush and apply it to the lower lash line. The only thing I used as a primer is the Danessa Myricks Color Fix. I used the nude shade in 4. Then just to build up a little bit of depth, I'm going to go in with this shade here. This is the second deepest blue in the palette. I'm not going to lie, sometimes I have trouble reading that cursive handwriting. But I figure if I describe the shade, you know what I'm talking about. Now I'm going to take that same shade and just add it to kind of the middle of the lower lash line. All right, and now in the outermost corner, I'm going to go in with this gorgeous cobalt matte here. This is definitely one of my favorite tones of blue, and I think it's going to be a perfect deepening up shade, but it's still so bright and fun. No issues with these mattes. I really, in general, tend not to have any issues with the Bella Beaute Bar mattes. They are among my favorite matte formulas from indie brands. I'm just going to add a little bit of that same deeper matte and just connect that down to the lower lash line. All right, now we're going to go ahead and play with this gorgeous coral tone shade called Euphoria. I really want that to be my inner corner highlight. I'm just going to add some with a smaller brush to that inner corner. And then I'm just taking a little bit of that same matte and sweeping it down onto the lower lash line. Now this matte is what I would consider to be a neon matte, and these can definitely be harder to do. They tend to have a thinner formula, so you do kind of have to like just use them a little bit differently than you use other mattes, but that is a gorgeous shade. And I love the way that that contrasts against the blues. Now I'm just going to take a little bit on the brow bone as well. All right, here's how things are looking before adding any shimmers. I'm really excited about these shimmers. This is a shimmer heavy palette, so definitely have some decisions to make. I think I'm going to go in with this shade Cumulus, which is a glowy blue. Here is what it looks like swatched to my fingertip, and I'm just going to pat that onto kind of the inner portion of the lid. Okay, love that shimmer. Now I think I'm just use the smallest amount of this deeper blue shimmer called Head in the Clouds. It's kind of like a rich blue metallic. Here's what it looks like swatched my fingertip. I'm just going to put a little bit and blend that into that deeper blue matte in the outer corner. All right, and for my highlighting shade, I'm going to use this shade here called Dreamy Happiness. Here's what it looks like on my fingertip. Here is what it looks like swatched on the back of my hand. It has some orange in there, some pink. I'm going to try to pick up more of that orange than the pink and just add that to the brow bone. And then I'm just going to add a little bit to the inner corner. And for my cheek highlight, I'm going to use a little bit of Dark Dreamscape. I don't know if it's capturing in the pan. This is the ultraviolet highlight that came out as a part of the Dark Dreamscape collection. Of course, I have to swatch it. Here is what it looks like swatched on the back of my hand. Let's just take a little bit because it's easy to go overboard with this one and add it to the top of the cheekbone. All right, I added eyeliner and mascara, and here is the completed look. All right, now that I've had a chance to go through everything, including doing some overhead swatches, some eye swatches of all of the shimmers, and a look, let's go ahead and close up with some wrap-up thoughts. So as I mentioned, I am really happy to see that we have a smaller palette. I don't mind bigger palettes. I actually find that the bigger palettes from Bella Beaute Bar are quite cohesive. But I do like the option of having some smaller palettes. I find myself enjoying traveling with smaller palettes. And I just think that this color story is a lot of fun. As many of you know, I absolutely adore blue eyeshadow, and this is definitely a heavily blue eyeshadow palette, leaning palette. Half of it is blue eyeshadow, and I think that these pops in here of coral, like coral and pink, both with the mattes and the shimmers, is just lovely, fun, ethereal. And they haven't done a color story like this, so really happy to see that. Something I thought about immediately when I saw this palette is that this, to me, is a perfect companion palette with Dark Dreamscape. Dark Dreamscape came out last year, and it is one of my favorite palettes from the brand. It has some blues in here, it has a whole lot of purple, and just, you know, these are not really overlapping palettes in any way, and the tones just go really well together. So if you're somebody who has Dark Dreamscape, then you might really enjoy pairing Cloud 9 with Dark Dreamscape. So just something I thought as I was going through it. Another thing I wanted to mention about the texture of the shimmers is that most of them, with the exception of this one that's more of a metallic, a deep blue metallic, they're pretty smooth. This one is just, the particle size is a little bit larger, but I didn't find it to be like particularly hard to work with. It's just something I wanted to mention. And then the formula of the mattes was great. I do think that it's more a function of this being a neon, the coral being a neon, that it has a thinner formula and it is harder to get it to build up. But I don't think that that is unique to this particular formula. I think it's just something about neon mattes that I've always experienced. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that I think this packaging is so lovely. It's simple, but this iridescent kind of shift to it just fits the vibes and really is very aesthetically pleasing. All right, now I would love to know what you think of this palette. Is this color story up your alley? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you made it to the end of my video, I would so appreciate if you left me a cloud emoji. As always, I really hope you found my video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.